Nikkei Asia News Roundup
with Jada and Brian. Welcome to the Nikkei Asia News Roundup with your hosts, Jada and Brian.
bringing you the latest updates and insights on the dynamic world of Asia and more.
Now let's delve into the headlines. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.
The Chinese government is cracking down on price competition in solar panels, looking to bolster the sustainability of an industry in which China holds global dominance, but that is deteriorating due to oversupply.
Falling inflation in several Southeast Asian nations has sparked concern among economists over weakening consumer demand as the region's economies grapple with the fallout from U.S. President Donald Trump's trade tariffs and an influx of cheap Chinese goods.
India's recent opening of its first railway connecting the Kashmir Valley in the north with the rest of the country could transform mobility in the region as it gives a boost to trade and tourism, the government says, as well as enhances the military's logistics capabilities, according to analysts.
With the Bank of Japan winding down stock transactions, which have continued in some form since December 2010, the market's focus turns to when and how the central bank disposes of its 76 trillion yen, or $520 billion in ETFs.
Australian mining group BHP is facing a major increase in labor costs after the country's industrial relations arbiter ruled that the company must pay the same wages to both directly and indirectly hired workers at 3 of its mines, dealing a blow to its internal contracting arrangements.
Ties between India and China seem to be under fresh strains over the Dalai Lama, with Beijing lodging a protest with New Delhi in the wake of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greetings to the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader on his 90th birthday. Now moving on to the next segment.
Prabowo's efficiency drive takes toll on Jakarta's starred hotels. Hotels in the Indonesian capital are taking a hit from President Prabowo Subianto's efficiency drive, losing a big chunk of their regular customers as civil servants are denied one of their job perks, free hotel stays. Jakarta hotels have long relied not on leisure tourism, but on meetings, incentives, conferences, and events, known in the industry as MICE. Among their key customers are civil servants from ministries and other state institutions, who for many years have held events at hotels. The head of the Jakarta chapter of the Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Association said hotels in the city traditionally get 20% to 40% of their revenue from government bookings. But government cutbacks on top of a domestic economic slowdown are battering a sector that has yet to fully recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. The occupancy rate at Jakarta's starred hotels fell from 59% in February to 38% in March, the lowest level since mid-2021, according to Statistics Indonesia. The drop was sharpest at 4- and 5-star hotels of the sort preferred by civil servants for MICE. Prabowo's austerity push, announced in February, comes at the expense of ministry budgets as the government works to free up funding for the president's priorities. They include free meals for children and setting up Danantara, a new sovereign wealth fund.
Nissan to delay EV production in U.S. by a year as subsidies dry up. Nissan Motor will postpone production of 2 electric vehicles in the U.S. for up to a year, Nikkei has learned, as the Trump administration's decision to end tax breaks for EVs, coupled with weak demand, leads automakers to rethink their plans. Nissan will push back production of 2 mid-size electric SUVs that were to be built at its Mississippi plant. Initially, production was to begin in 2028, but will now be pushed back until the end of 2028 or early 2029. One of the delayed vehicles was planned for release under the Nissan brand, while the other was planned for the luxury brand Infiniti. As of 2024, Nissan had planned to launch 5 EV models in the U.S. It later halted development of a small SUV and a sedan. Now, the automaker plans to roll out 3 EV models in the U.S. Other big Japanese automakers are also revising EV plans. Toyota Motor is postponing production of an electric vehicle in the U.S. by 2 years. It will stop EV production at its Indiana plant while increasing production of hybrid and gasoline-powered versions of the Grand Highlander SUV, which is popular in the U.S.
And now for news highlights. Today, we are sharing a couple of Nikkei Asia's most well-read stories in the last few days.
And, there's a lot on Trump, as always, but it seems like even more so this week because we've just had a new announcement from Mr. President.
This was just yesterday or a couple days ago?
Well,
real recent, depending on time zones, I guess.
Yeah.
It was that there's been an agreement, or at least, no, Trump has
agreed upon himself.
Yeah, it's hard to explain that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the tariff agreement, there I said it again, that there will be tariffs imposed on Japan.
Yes. So Trump has sent out letters to a list of countries with new tariff levels that he himself and Washington has come up with. Again, not really that much explanation on the actual, tariff level and why he's imposing that number on countries. But so initially, we were supposed to have a deadline this week where he had a 90-day pause for tariffs.
I believe the date was July 9th.
Yes, July 9th. And, Japan, South Korea, all other countries were included in that. But now he has come out with a new deadline, which is August 1st.
August 1st for these countries.
Yeah. So I think in Japan, the news has been Mr. Akazawa, who's kind of the tariff negotiator for Tokyo.
Yeah, he's the person that's been shuttling to Washington all the time trying to talk things over.
Almost 10 times, I think, and have yet to reach a deal, which, I think it's interesting because at first we were thinking Japan would probably be one of the countries to first reach an agreement with Washington, but that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, if you go through the list of the different agreements or maybe agreements that are happening, they paint a picture, but it's a confusing picture. So I'm just going to read the headlines of some of our most read stories this week. And it's Trump imposes 25% tariffs on Japan, South Korea, and Malaysia. Trump tariff letter shatters Japan's hopes for a special relationship. Trump imposes 50% tariffs on Brazil after public spat with Lula, who was the president of Brazil.
Yes.
Philippines to face 20% U.S. tariff, Trump says in letter to Marcos, who was the president of the Philippines.
Yep.
And, quote, Mr. Japan refuses to call Trump, quote, daddy, and good on him.
Yes.
So it makes you wonder what is going on because there seems to be a lot going on, but there's a couple of them in there that are very telling about what Japan did or tried to do, and it didn't seem to work out so far.
Yeah. So this story about, Japan was hoping that it could kind of use its special relationship with Washington to reach a deal that's kind of, not only beneficial to Washington, but so Japan is really hoping to get rid of the 25% tariff on automakers, shipments of automobiles, which is, a huge deal for the Japan economy. But it seems like that's kind of, Washington is not agreeing to that, and they want Japan to import more oil, rice, what else?
The list goes on.
Yeah.
And their Prime Minister Ishiba, who is, by the way, facing an election coming up in the upper house in just 2 weeks from now. So he's on the campaign trail or, trying to support other members of his party. And he said in a recent press club event that we are in a different situation from other countries in terms of these negotiations. But now the question is, are you really?
Yeah.
Because it seems that Japan is receiving the same treatment from the Trump administration that a lot of other countries have, which is that Trump decides, not the other countries.
Yeah.
And so you have to find ways to negotiate something that you can get out of the deal, but it's not going to be the traditional ways.
I think, this opinion piece by William Pesek, who writes
he's a frequent commenter at Nikkei Asia.
and it's the headline that you read out earlier about Mr. Japan refusing to call Trump daddy. But his take was more so, giving kudos to Ishiba for not really bowing to all of Trump's demands, and which he is comparing to the Trump-Abe era, where there was this whole bromance going on. And
famously, when Trump won in 2016, Abe was one of the first people to call him and congratulate him, and then made a major effort to go and meet with him and give him gifts and compliment him. And there was
go on the golf course with him.
And when Abe was assassinated, Trump he wasn't president at the time, but he had a lot of nice things to say about Abe. So there was a friendship there almost.
Yeah. So, but Pesek is kind of comparing Ishiba-Trump relations to the Trump-Abe bromance and saying, well, Abe did kind of, he had a good relationship with Trump, but that didn't really mean there were no tariffs imposed, or, Trump still gave Japan a hard time during his first tenure. So he's saying Ishiba not bowing down to everything he says is kind of a good image of him.
Which could play in... For him, probably Ishiba thinks that will play well for him, considering that an election is coming up, and his approval rating is not too high right now.
No, I think it's somewhere in like the 30%.
Yeah, it's mid-30s, which is not good for a government right now.
Yes, so we will surely be seeing more articles on Trump, and especially with countries still trying to negotiate by that August 1st deadline. But there are other stories that were read well.
That's right. I'm looking at the top 10 list. Should we go back to Thailand? Because we talked about this a few podcasts ago.
Yes.
Where the story about what's going on with the prime minister is still in the top 10. It's an incredibly popular story.
Yeah.
But the latest development is that Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has been suspended by the court.
Yes. So I think there was a petition lodged by a few dozen maybe lawmakers, and the court has decided for now to suspend Paetongtarn. So, this is going to be a huge deal. There are a lot of readers who want to know, so what does the court process look like? When will the final verdict come? What's going to happen if she is removed from office? So that's a lot of questions that I'm sure we'll be reporting on in the coming weeks.
And it seems like every day there's a new development. So let's see how it goes. And one last one I want to touch on. We'll move over to Indonesia very quickly, because I thought this is an interesting story that needs to be pointed out, is that education is rising in Indonesia, particularly tertiary education, like engineering and sciences and tech. But one of the problems is that graduates are having trouble finding jobs that pay well or advance their careers, so they're going abroad. Yeah,
they're going to like Singapore, Japan, Australia. Yeah.
And this story explores why people are making that decision. One person just said, I can make more money, I can live a better life. I would like to live in Indonesia, but it's just not there for me. Yeah. So it's an interesting development to see where Indonesia takes this.
And that brings us to the close of today's episode.
We look forward to having you join up again for the next edition of the Nikkei Asia News Roundup.
Stay informed, stay curious. Until next time, I'm Jada.
And I'm Brian. See you again, and take care. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.